I've had this tab open on my computer for a long time, and because I have so many tabs, it kind of got lost in the shuffle. But I want to deal with this because this really highlights a nugget of truth that I hope everybody who watches this video, and I hope there's a lot of people who watch this video, and the only way that can happen is if you like and share this video. But I hope the takeaway is when people see this is, yeah, evil is evil and good is good, and evil is antithetical to good. So I should never vote for evil, even if it's packaged as the lesser of evil or evil light. Do you want extra strength evil or do you want evil light? You know what? I think what would be best for society is if we take evil light, and it's a false dichotomy anyway, because that's what politics is. It is the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering in order to dupe average people into accepting and even demanding the change of their own enslavement and the enslavement of others. So what politics does to you is it demeans you, it dehumanizes you, and it demoralizes you to the point where you know you're voting for evil. You know the only choice they've given you is evil, packaged as two different choices when it's really the same choice. They say it's a two-party system, but it's really a uniparty system owned by the same corporate masters, the DNC and the RNC. But then you have shills on the left and the right. On the right, you have like Candace Owens or Tim Pool, who says he's a moderate, but he's really on the right. He's pro-Trump. If you're pro-Trump, you're anti-freedom. You're anti-Constitution. If you were pro-Harris, you're anti-freedom. You're anti-Constitution. So basically they're saying, do you want to vote for anti-freedom or anti-freedom? That's not a choice. Do you want poop soup or turd sandwich? That's not a choice. That's not a viable legitimate choice. So if you have rightist propagandists or leftist or progressive propagandists like Sam Seder right here, they tell you the same things. They propagandize you the same way. They lie to you in the exact same fashion. So here's Sam Seder talking to Ethan Klein on the H3H3 podcast. And this piqued my curiosity when I was listening to it, because this summarizes why this country and other countries are in the trouble they're in, because they choose to demoralize themselves. They choose to walk away from principle and vote for evil, even though it's packaged as lesser of two evils, when it's really the same exact evil. Listen to what he says right here. Pay very close attention to what he says and how he says it, and the fact that Ethan Klein agrees with him.
I mean, look, I chose to support Harris because I perceived her as the lesser of two evils. But
yeah, me too. And I think that that's an important distinction to make at a time like this. Yeah,
I can certainly.
It's an important distinction. The paradox, the irony, the grave irony is that that's no distinction at all. I chose evil, the evil behind door A rather than the evil behind door C. The bottom line is you still made a conscious effort to choose evil. No matter how it's packaged, you still called it evil. And you still voted for it. You put your support behind it, knowing that only corruption could happen. So what these people are saying, and what they want you to believe, and what I think they've conned themselves into believing, is that I am going to vote for evil in the hopes that good will result. That is ridiculous. I'm going to jump in this mud puddle in the hopes that when I emerge from the mud puddle, all my clothing will be clean. Ridiculous. I'm going to put this ice in my drink in the hopes that it will begin boiling so that I can make myself some tea. They're literally telling you to believe nonsense. If you know it's evil, you don't vote for it. And if you vote for it and evil happens, you're the one who can't complain about it because you promoted it, you supported it, maybe you funded it. This is insane. This is the insanity that politicians want you to live in. That's the land of insanity that politicians want you to live in. Because as long as you're living in this insanity and you're propagating this insanity, then you'll act on this insanity. And then because you're a social media influencer, you can affect the minds of a whole lot of people. Infect the minds, not affect, but infect the minds of a whole lot of people. And I'm going to infect you and infuse you with the idea that you can vote for evil so that good may come.
Understand.
And that's almost like Isaiah 5:20. I think it's Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness.
And how some people were just so repulsed by what was happening that it made it almost impossible for them to vote for Harris. I think,
I understand why they didn't. I totally understand the perspective. Like, I'm so disillusioned with this administration, I can't support Kamala. But at the same time, like, a hugely influential political streamer like Hassan, who has a huge influence on people, I think, and who's someone who who's very vocal about being pro-Palestine. I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to be like, I'm not voting for Kamala, or I'm not telling you who I voted for. I suspect he voted for Jill Stein personally.
It's an abdication of responsibility. By the way, all the twitching, he's got Tourette syndrome, so don't give him a hard time on that. But an abdication of personal responsibility to withhold you. You have the responsibility to not vote for evil. If you support and you vote for evil, then it was your voice that brought evil into the world. What if we withdrew our voice? What if we withdrew our consent? What if we said, hey, I'm not playing this political dog and pony charade. It's not happening anymore. I'm no longer going to go to the big top. I'm not going to pay for, buy a ticket. Do you realize that in 2020, in the 2020 election cycle, $14.4 billion, not million, $14.4 billion was spent on that election cycle. 23% came from small money donors, meaning less than $200. 23% of $14.4 billion came from small money donors, most of whom can't even afford that. If 72 to 76% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, you think they can afford to give 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, 150, $200 to a political campaign who's going to take that money, waste that money, and do what their political banking masters tell them to do anyway? That politician is not going to benefit the person who's supporting that politician. Only more evil is going to come into the world. More corruption, more fraud, more abuse. And these guys are sitting here. These are the political pundits of our day. And they're telling you, well, it's better if you vote for Kamala.
But either way, he hasn't said, and he wouldn't endorse her. Now, if you're just like...
They're talking about Hassan Piker, who is a cousin of I don't know if it's a first cousin or whatever, of Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks. So apparently there's this beef between Hassan Piker, which I'm not paying attention to, and Ethan Klein from H3H3. And this is what they're talking about, and that's why Sam Seder is on this podcast.
A random protester or whatever, and you're like, I'm so disgusted, I don't want to vote, that's fine. But if you're like a high-level political streamer, and basically you have the capacity to weigh like the lesser of two evils and what that means, I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to not make that call.
Did you hear what he just said? If you're like a high profile political streamer, and basically you have the capacity to weigh the lesser of two evils and what that means, I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility not to make that call. But he continues.
I mean, I certainly have been critical of people who, generally don't vote for the lesser of two evils. But I think, and certainly, in the run up to the 2016 election, I certainly that was my perspective. But again, what the Biden administration was doing was so horrific that her inability to signal that there would be any change, I think sometimes you have to take this at face value. And I think there would be certainly, definitely other things. You would not be assaulting the government like Trump is. But, I think probably this is the first election in as long as I've been doing this, and I think it's been 5 elections now. I mean, I'm old, that I couldn't really condemn someone from taking that position.
So I used to condemn people for not voting because, hey, all we got is a choice of a lesser of two evils. Now, I just want to reiterate, Sam Seder said, I certainly have been critical of people who, generally don't vote for the lesser of two evils. And he says, now I couldn't really condemn someone for taking that position based on what we're seeing right now with Trump. So up until this election, he's maintained a posture of being highly critical of those who choose not to vote for the lesser of two evils. But now all of a sudden, because Trump is so bad, I can see why people sat this one out. Think about what he's saying. You have to participate in the voting process. It's your divine right to participate in the voting process. Just like you have the right to defend yourself against an aggressive attacker, you have the right to vote for a political parasite who's as evil as the other political parasite and is just as controlled by the Zio International Banking Cartel. But if you don't vote, I'm going to be highly critical of you. Instead of him using his platform going, hey, you know what? We could literally shake up the whole system. Withdraw your consent. Withdraw your vote. Recognize that all the people under the big top are absolute clowns and you're not going to pay the ticket price. You're not going to sit in the stands. You're not buying their popcorn. You're not buying their poisonous soft drinks. You're not buying anything that they said. You recognize that all the clowns under the big top are absolutely illegitimate and have no legitimate reason to speak into any of our lives, let alone make rules and enforce those rules against us. While he could use his platform for that, while Ethan could use his platform for that, while anybody on the left or the right could use their platform as that, they're not going to. They're not going to step off of it because that's how they make their money. That's how they get popular. They play the left versus right paradigm game, this fear-based, emotionally charged campaign where people are like, no, I'm a diehard Democrat. I'm a diehard Republican. No, I'm for Trump. I'm for Harris. I'm for Biden. I'm for CNN. I'm for Fox News. I'm for Newsmax. And they pit people against one another for their own personal gain as they step away from principle themselves, as they step away, let go, decouple from morality, and tell you to stand in the corner of a warmongering, banker-bought, psychotic megalomaniac. That's how sick these people are. This is how apparent it is. Don't ever downplay or let anybody else downplay the fact that voting for the lesser of two evils is still voting. You're literally admitting I voted for evil. I knowingly, consciously, with my consent and my signature and proof of ID, voted for evil. And as long as that continues to happen in this country, nothing will ever change. Republican, I don't care. Democrat, I don't care. Why don't you just maintain, you know what? I'm a human being. I am not ruled. I'm not rightly ruled by anybody. There's no master or ruler over me. Nobody's got a higher claim over my life and property than me. It's always going to be wrong to initiate unjust force and violence on peaceful people who haven't done anything wrong. I don't care what their reason is. I don't care what their good sounding argument is. I heard Kyle Kalinske in a debate against Charlie Kirk the other day say, let me ask you a question. If you could, Jeff Bezos is worth $150 billion. If you could take 1% of his $150 billion away and provide for homeless veterans, would you do it? And that right there is a false choice. It's a false dichotomy. First of all, you're asking me if I would rob somebody so that I could give to somebody who's less fortunate. That'd be like saying, hey, coming to my neighbor's house and saying, hey, there's a child in our neighborhood with crutches, and hold him at gunpoint and go, I need 5% of your net worth. I need it right now, or I'm going to pull the trigger so that we can give little Jimmy some crutches and a wheelchair. I don't care what the good sounding argument is. I don't care what it would benefit somebody else. Committing an evil so that you can do good with somebody else's money is not doing good. You may think it's doing good. It may benefit those veterans. But how would you feel if you were a person, let's say somebody gave you a birthday gift, and you're like, oh my God, a brand new car for my birthday. Thank you so much. And you found out 2 years later that it was a car that was stolen from somebody 2 streets down from you. you'd feel horrible. You'd be like, if you had any sense of morality, if you had any sense of the golden rule, you would be like, this isn't my car. I can't accept this. Now, desperate people will accept it. People who are, fine with the status quo will accept it, but that doesn't make it right. There is wrong in this world and there is right in this world. And I think it'd be better to build society on that which is right. If you want to build society on that which is right, then stop telling everybody that other people have control over you. Nobody has a legitimate right to your life or your property than you. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Global Thought Police. Do you think it's a good idea to continue voting for the lesser of two evils? As people do vote for the lesser of two evils, does it change anything for the good? Can voting for evil ever change anything for the good? It may look like it does sometimes, but there's a give and a take in the universe. And when you take from the positive and continually give to the negative things will come and positive things will diminish. Good things will go away and evil things will flourish. And that's what we have, is a flourishing of evil in Washington's District of Criminals, thanks to propagandists like Sam Seder and Ethan Klein and every rightist propagandist and every leftist and every progressive propagandist. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Global Thought Police in the comment section below. If you want to help grow this channel, like this video and share this video. If you want to support me further, the links, Cash App and Patreon and Subscribestar and Buy Me a Coffee are in the description below. Drop me a note if you want to. Grab a shirt. Soon you'll be able to become a channel member. But more importantly, understand your rights don't go away. Your freedoms don't erode simply because other people think they have control over you. I'll see you in the next video.